It can't stop the day we dissect the news. Flipping on the edge, choices to choose. Politics and laughter, a blend that's so real. Shooting for the stories that make you feel. With guests from every angle, let's bridge the divide. Finding the truth in the humor we can't hide. The Prime Directive, where the laughter's alive. Society's reflections, let's help each other thrive. Politics and culture, oh what a blend. Join on the journey, let's set the trend.
I was going to say, here we are.
Here we are, my friend.
Here we are.
Another episode of the Prime Directive.
Yeah, and, here I am being a, stereotypical...
Me too.
Screen guy.
Me too.
It's so funny. Regardless how hard I try not to have a screen in front of me, I'm telling you, Eric, it is remarkable how easy it is to... I don't want to say, get stuck in it.
It pulls you in.
But it really does pull you in, doesn't it?
It's hard to pull out.
Oh! I was gonna make an astronomy joke that was talking about a empty dark void, but I was then I decided not to because I thought we might be able to do the chode update. Well, it's good to see you.
Oh my God, it is great to see you, my friend.
Probably the people
you and I have had weeks like you wouldn't believe. I haven't even filled you in. I'll fill you in later on what's going on with my week, but it sounds like you had a week that was just unbelievable.
Unbelievable is the best way to put it,
So I think that's why maybe the topic this week for our podcast should be Stoicism.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely. Let's talk about Marcus Aurelius because he's a cool dude,
and Epictetus and Seneca and the.
I'm sorry, what did you just call me?
Epictetus. Sounds like a disease, but no, it's we'll talk about him. All right, so welcome back to another episode of the Prime Directive.
Hello,
I'm Eric. This is Admar, and boy,
supposedly.
Tell you what, if your weeks have been anything like ours the last couple of weeks, you're going through it like we are. And
I feel like everybody goes through. Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? That's why I think this is such a phenomenal topic choice to talk about the Stoics.
Yeah.
Because I feel like just when you think things have settled down, I got this, I'm moving ahead, you basically just get, that proverbial slap in the face, no you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the interesting thing about it, which by the way I'm going to bring up some of Stoics and popular culture as well.
Yeah, it's made a resurgence. It kind of died out and disappeared for a long time, but it's definitely made a resurgence with the pandemic and everything else that's been happening. So our spiel, Admar, why don't you do the we are the Prime Directive here. You want to see it?
Thank you. Well, first and foremost, welcome everyone to the Prime Directive, a podcast with a bold mission to explore this strange new world by discussing a range of topics of interest to us. We ask that you join us and listen in with an open mind and look with your human eyes to thoughtfully interact and share your thoughts. Comment below. And we are seeking life forms willing to engage in respectful discourse because we put the civil in civilization.
In civilization, that is correct. And man, is it hard to stay civil sometimes, given what we're facing each and every day. But
that's the Prime Directive, though.
But that is the Prime Directive. So Stoicism is definitely involved. If you're going to have something that guides you, that it's prime, it's the first, and it's going to direct you, it's going to guide you, it's going to be a northern star. Stoicism is definitely up there. It is a philosophy worth exploring. It is a way of living that goes beyond just the words, and it is something that is just so needed in our society today because people have lost their flipping minds. We're awash in a society, in a world right now of confusion and crazy and just a form of insanity, whether it's being brought on by AI or whatever. we're going through it. We're going through a time in history right now that is, we're going to need to look to the past and see what can help guide us. And this is something that can help us do it, I think. I think so. So what have you heard about Stoicism? Like most people out there, you probably haven't heard of this philosophy, but what's like your general, you hear that word, someone is a Stoic. And like in your brain, what do you think of?
The first thing for me, and again, I'm here to learn as much as the next person.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm glad to have this conversation. And before we started the podcast, I mentioned to you that I would like to kind of relinquish, this conversation topic.
Okay.
More over to you.
Sure.
With an interest to learn more. So to answer your question, what I'm imagining as far as Stoicism is concerned, what it's really about is stillness of mind and heart. Not to get caught up in the middle of things, basically to have the presence of mind to know that, hey, we are going to move through this. We're going to do it methodically. We're going to do it strategically. We're going to provide a certain sense of calm. Tell me how close I am.
You're very close. I think you've got the main gist of it. And I'm certainly not an expert, although my background is in philosophy and sociology and stuff.
Well, that's why I thought this,
I've come into this since the pandemic when I started getting news. The AI algorithm started recommending certain topics on my playlist. In the old days, 5 years ago, right at the height of like the pandemic, when it looked like we were going to be living in a Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome world for about a month there, when we were stuck in our houses and whatnot, and going through it. So yeah, Stoicism. So probably start at the beginning. From what I know from this guy, it was founded in Greece, of course, by this guy named Zeno. And people are welcome to get on the interwebs and fact check anything that I say and that you would say as well, because it's not like human beings are infallible, and it's not like the AI systems are infallible either, right? And humble, but
always.
But no. So this guy Zeno loses everything. I want to say in the 3rd century BCE, but I could be off on that one. He was a merchant, a wealthy merchant selling olive oil, and which was worth more than gold at some point. For the ancient Greeks, the ancient peoples. Guy loses everything, including his wife and child. That's what's so stunning and shocking. Gets washed up on the shore, has to start over. Goes wandering into, of course, Greece, in Athens, and they have a place there that was painted red. And that's where this idea of Stoa comes from. The red buildings is how that translates. Mm-hmm. And so the Stoa was this epicenter of Greek life where people would congregate, great minds of the day would go and exchange ideas. And Zeno goes there, and he's lost everything, but he starts finding a way to rebuild his life after it's been destroyed, shattered, just completely obliterated. Lost all of his money, lost everybody he loves and who loved him. And you have to find a way to live again. Or not, all right? Because the Stoics would be the first to say you have the choice. You can choose to die, or you can choose to live, and it's up to you. But that's the foundation of this thing. And based out of that beginnings from this guy learning how to reorganize his mind and reorganize his life after he had lost everything. And I mean literally everything, with the exception, I guess, of his health. This philosophy takes root. And it's so powerful, this way of thinking, that it impacts slaves. So there's a person named Epictetus, his name literally translates into the acquired one, the slave, a slave. He becomes a teacher to emperors, but it finds its way into the highest echelons of Roman society. It culminates in the greatest Roman emperor, which is Marcus Aurelius.
The true Roman emperor. Sorry,
He's the last. Marcus Aurelius is the last great Roman emperor. After him, Rome truly descends into just kind of
awfulness.
Yeah, it never comes back. It really, and starting with his son. His son is named Commodus, and his son was a tyrant and a madman. And
well, isn't that also depicted in
the Gladiator movies? Yeah, but those are loosely based on history.
Highly fictitious.
Yeah, well, King Phoenix does a great job of being a real prick in that thing, and
that's why he's an awesome actor.
But Commodus was probably worse. The real Commodus was actually a worse guy, which is ironic because he was as bad as his father, Marcus Aurelius, was
good,
virtuous. Yeah. So
that's really, really fascinating that you mention all that. There was one additional point I was going to touch upon.
Yeah.
As far as Rome is concerned. So Rome. Did the empire actually go away? Did it completely die off?
No, it never really does, right? There's nothing that just disappears. It just kind of fades into and bleeds into other societies as well.
Right, because that's how we ended up with having another entity, the Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah, but never.
Which is basically...
And we get the Pope.
Yeah.
Big Papa, the Pope.
Yeah.
Which,
by the way, how awesome is it that he's from Illinois?
A religious figurehead, for the entire religion.
That's a fantastic. Yeah. And he's a big baseball fan, too.
Yeah. It's very interesting just to see how religion and the state have blended together through most of time. And why our founding fathers in America were so leery. The vast majority of them were so leery about religion and state doing this.
Right.
Because they saw from their history books that every time that religion and state does this, has a melding, it's bad news. It just leads to basically the destruction of societies, because you have a corruption of a personal spiritual belief with the practical of the state that has to get done. And there's not an easy way to balance that. And anybody who says there's an easy way to balance that is either selling you something or they haven't studied their history books.
So hold on. What are they selling? Is it good?
Oh, they're usually selling some form of, you're going to live forever stuff. And people are afraid to die. And so religion becomes the great replacement for our fears. Carl Jung talks about this stuff as well, that, and there's a need that it fulfills as well. Religion can also be a great socializer for barbaric peoples who would otherwise just kill people with impunity and no conscience. So there are ways to see religion in a positive and a negative light, right? There's ways to see it as part of the shadows and the light as well. Now, the great sociologist Max Weber, who's my favorite social theorist, he tried to understand religion in a way that was sociological, which means he tried to, as best as he could, remove himself from the passions of religion and just look at it from that 30,000 feet in the sky kind of viewpoint down on society, the way a sociologist would. And so he came up with a great theory called the Protestant ethic, the theory of the Protestant ethic, that kind of explains why America is the way it is right now, and where we get many of our work ethic and societal principles to follow, that you are your job, you are what you do, your work is your work for God kind of stuff, and that Protestant ethic has driven America. Anyway, to get back to what we were chatting though about the Stoics, so to go back to them, God, it's hard. It's hard to. I realize my brain digresses all over the place, but it's a.
Well, that's why you're a podcaster.
Well, podcaster and a teacher, but and a drummer. So I'm always thinking of all the beats, right? ADHD. But so the Stoics begin building this foundation of a way of thinking, a way of living. One of the greatest teachers, like I said, was this guy Epictetus. And Epictetus is one of these guys that he becomes a slave. And out of that horrifying experience of being a slave, he lays down probably the core foundational principle of Stoicism. And that principle is that you can only control how you respond and your own mind, how you will be to the external forces of the world that you cannot control. Mm-hmm. So life itself is just about controlling what you can, on the one hand, trying to actually control your mind, your emotional response to things. And it's not to not feel emotions. You're supposed to feel emotions, but just to try to know when it's being virtuous, versus things that are completely out of your control. Things in the government, wars that you're not a part of,
and the world.
The world, it's pain and suffering that far transcends your ability to enter into it and make any kind of a meaningful difference, right? All you can control is what you can control around you and within you in the moment. And everything else is just, you got to let go. You have to, because then the theory goes, if you focus on what you can control within yourself, then it builds. It's like a building block, and it's infectious. Then you are a person of virtue. You're a person of courage. You're a person of temperance. You're a person of honesty. You're a person of integrity. You're a person of temperance and justice.
So how important, and not to cut you off there.
No, it's fine.
No, I'm just curious. How important is it then to encourage young children, young adults, to develop that aspect of stoicism early on through play? And here's what I mean.
Yep.
I recently spoke with one of my colleagues who is German, of German heritage, grew up in Germany, and she was discussing, her and I having a conversation about the differences in playgrounds. Mm-hmm. How risk-averse playgrounds create a mindset of risk aversion.
Yeah, you don't. Carol Dweck would say you don't get a growth mindset. You get a fixed mindset.
You don't feel a sense of accomplishment either. You don't feel like you had to overcome something. You don't necessarily feel the courage.
That's right.
That it took.
That's right. And then you start seeing yourself as a victim to everything in life, and
rather than someone who can rise above
and overcome. And then you get fragility, right, in children and other people too, that the slightest perceived slight, not even a real issue, not even a real anything that they've dealt with, but the slightest perceived slight towards them becomes a huge, blown out of proportion, huge overreaction, and a pitching of a fit, or a false accusation, or it becomes it just becomes a fight over the minorest of things, inconveniences and things. That's correct. Yeah, that is. And so the Stoics would say, the Stoics would be like, do not do that to your children, right? The Stoics would say, do not treat your children and try to protect them, if you will, from the troubles of the real world. Mm-hmm. They would say, confront the troubles of the real world, control what you can, right? You don't want your kids to be victims of crimes and things like that, actual crimes. But you want your kids to still be able to deal with hardship, struggles, conflict. And if somebody disagrees with them, they're not a victim. And if, somebody makes a perceived slight to them, they don't collapse and just go running into the arms of their parent, right?
Which is also interesting.
Running to the principal's office
or go to the teacher.
Or go to the teacher or elsewhere and go do crazy things. The Stoics would be like, teach your children to follow the Stoic principles of virtue and integrity. And then you teach kids from an early age, regardless of what happens to you, you can only control you. And so somebody slaps you in the face on the playground. You can choose to be enraged and to seek vengeance, or to follow the great teachings of Marcus Aurelius. You can, here's how he puts it. He says, the greatest revenge you could ever have on your worst enemy is to be nothing like them. And so if a person is petty and vindictive, well, then you're gracious and compassionate. If they're a liar and a thief, then you're honest and giving. If that's what the Stoics would say. They would say life itself is about cultivating what we can control. You face a horrible accusation or bearing a false witness against you. You in response, you come back with integrity and honesty and kindness. And or in Marcus Aurelius's day, it was bad. So somebody murders your family. Do you want to become the murderer of their family? No, right?
Which is interesting because
you open up your heart and your mind. You would feel pity for the person who is so blinded by rage and vengeance and anger. Marcus Aurelius says again and again and again in his writings of meditations, anger is the enemy. Anger is the enemy. Because can you imagine what he would have had to deal with in his day? People coming to him trying to manipulate entire groups, life and death, every single day, life and death. He was involved in Germanic warfare campaigns, which were just brutal and endless. And so he's probably having slaves brought before him every day. Life and death decisions at your fingertips. And he has to find a way. He has to find a way to not be the kind of a dictator who's a small, petty, myopic, little Caligula or his own son Commodus. Oh, boy. Or any of the other horrible Nero. Oof.
Huh?
Oh. Nero was advised by another Stoic named Seneca. And Rome flourished when Seneca's words were followed. And Rome burned when Nero chose to not listen to Seneca's words and to
isn't that interesting? Which, by the way, I'm kind of like talking about the emergence of like you said, virtuosity and someone's perfect opposite. Meaning that if you're like this, you brought up the example of, well, if you hurt my family, I'm going to be nothing like you.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because you kind of look at the Old Testament, an eye for an eye.
The Hammurabi's Code.
Hammurabi's Code,
yeah.
Which that's pretty much where the Old Testament really comes from.
Sure.
Like if you go far enough back in history.
Yep. It's the Akkadians.
Yep.
It's the Akkadians and the Babylonians and epics of Gilgamesh and stuff. Yeah.
Which, by the way,
those themes appear again and again.
It's pretty epic.
It is. It's an amazing story. We've pieced it together, or at least archaeologists have pieced most of it together. That's a book worthy of reading and.
I was going to say of a movie.
Well, the guy literally goes on a quest to defeat death.
Yeah.
And so boy, does that sound familiar. A quest to defeat death.
Prime Directive, where the laughter's alive. Society's reflections that help each other thrive. Politics and culture. Oh.